Avoidance can be extremely frustrating. Do they want you back, or do they just want space? Do they actually care, or are you just a distraction for them? Well, the thing about avoidance is that they avoid intimacy. So this means avoiding the people they love, avoiding difficult conversations, and avoiding their feelings. And because of this, avoidance can act in ways that can be very hard to read, both by design and because they can't help it. But the good thing is that they will often act in ways that are predictable. So once you know what to look for, you should be able to tell if they still love you or if they're over it. So let's get into the signs that your avoidant ex still loves you. So number one, they won't shut the door for good. Now, as I've said, avoidants are great at avoiding things, but they don't do it just to do it. So to understand them, we need to look at what they're avoiding and why they're avoiding it. So here's a common scenario. After the breakup, communication breaks down, but it still feels like there's something between you. Now, as someone who's not avoidant, you try to get clarity with your ex, but they won't give you a straight answer about their feelings. Now it's so frustrating, but it's usually a sign that they're still interested in you. Because avoidants are very good at ending things, running away, and taking space. They're good at closing the door. And if they're still sticking around and giving you signals, that's because they still have strong feelings for you, even if they're not willing to act on them just yet. They want to leave that door open for something in the future. Now, these signals come in many forms. Maybe they ask to be, just friends. Maybe they still reach out to you on your birthday or on holidays. These are small ways of keeping the lines of communication open because they don't want to let you go. Now, that said, this is a tricky situation to read. If this is the only sign that they're giving you, then this could just be them, keeping you on the hook because they want to keep their options open. So don't go running back into their arms just yet. Look for some other signs as well, such as number 2, they create a push-pull dynamic. Now, this is something that avoidance will do unintentionally, but it's also the biggest indicator of an avoidance feelings for you. Because the avoidant is not just somebody who avoids all human contact, love, affection, connection. They're not a hermit. They want this connection, but it also scares them. So most avoidants pride themselves on being self-sufficient, so they're very good at just cutting you off and going on their way. So if they didn't have feelings, they'd have no trouble moving on. But if they do like you, then things are going to be a little different. They're going to keep the connection alive just in their own specific way. Because they're essentially being pulled in two different directions. One part of them finds it much easier and more comfortable to have that space from you. It's less risky because there's no danger of being hurt. But the other part of them, loves you and wants to be close to you. And because they're being pulled in different directions, they're essentially going to do the same to you. So one day they'll be very present, attentive, and loving. It'll feel like the fog is lifted and your perfect partner is standing right in front of you. But then suddenly, they'll be distant, cold, and unwilling to even text you back, much less spend time with you. Now, if they're over you, this will be the end of it. They'll drift away and leave you wondering what happened. But if they still care for you, then they're gonna repeat this cycle again and again, pulling away anytime you get close to them. It can be really frustrating, and the worst part is that this is very, very common. Now, number 3, they'll avoid conversations. So for example, they may avoid having tough conversations about your feelings and their feelings because they fear that conversation will overwhelm them. Or worse, that the things that they say will scare you off and they're going to end up alone again. So in this case, they're avoiding talking things out because they don't want to lose you. This would mean that you're important to them even if it doesn't feel that way. But this dynamic does change after a breakup when things get a little messy. Say you want to talk about your situation. You want to know how they feel about you. If they're over you, if they want you back, whatever. Now, an avoidant will avoid this conversation for a similar reason. Even if they feel very strongly for you, and often because they feel so strongly, they're afraid to find out that you don't feel the same way. They'd rather keep going in limbo than open up and find out that you don't love them or want them. Now, there's a couple of different tactics they'll use in this situation. They might just change the subject. They might tell you that now isn't the right time for the conversation. They might fail to show up at a planned meeting or stop answering your messages for a while, only to pop up again later. So while it may seem like they're over you because they keep blowing you off or making jokes when you try to bring up the topic, it's usually not that at all. They're just trying to protect themselves from the truth. And number 4, they'll communicate it without words. Now, since avoidants are bad at having difficult conversations and sharing feelings, and this gets even tougher for them after the breakup, they're going to have a lot of trouble communicating. Many avoidants are better at communicating with actions than with words. So while they're less likely to come out and say, I love you, they're more likely to make a gesture that communicates their feelings for you without having to actually open up and risk anything. Now, these gestures can be hard to spot and quite subtle, but if you know your ex, you know when they're sending out these signals. If you're having trouble, think of how they showed you love in the relationship. Maybe they'd pick up your favorite coffee for you when you were having a tough day. Maybe they'd make time to listen to you when you know they needed you needed it most. Maybe they'd give you that look that melted your heart. But if your ex is continuing to make gestures like these, then you can bet that their feelings for you are very much alive. Now, if you're not sure at all what your ex feels, I can help you. Please just go to breakupbrad.com/quiz after the video's over and take my free quiz to find out how your ex really feels about you. It's based on all of my experience as a breakup coach and as somebody who studies the psychology of breakups full time. It's completely free, it takes less than 5 minutes, and it'll give you advice on what to do next to ensure you get your ex back. Again, take it for free at breakupbrad.com/quiz. Now let's move on to number 5. They'll be afraid to lose you. So we've said that avoidants are good at moving on, but that's only if they're actually interested in getting over you. If your ex still loves you, it'll be quite the opposite. And a way that this will manifest is in your ex's concern. They'll want to know what you're doing, who you're hanging out with, what you're planning for the future. Essentially, they're saying, are you still here? Are you moving on? Am I losing you? Without actually saying it. So if your ex holds a hug for a little longer than expected or keeps bugging you about what you're doing over the summer, don't be surprised if they're still harboring some major feelings. And this will come as especially obvious if they display sign number 6 on this list, which is that they're going to be jealous and protective. Now, jealousy comes from a sense of possessiveness over another person. And most of the time we feel that possessiveness, toxic or not, it's driven by feelings of love. But again, exes, especially avoidant exes, are going to try to be subtle about these things because they're trying to keep their distance. So they're less likely to trash talk your dates or even ask you if you're dating again. So instead, they'll do it indirectly. They may ask mutual friends about your dating life. So if you mention a date that you're going on, they may get angry at you but claim it's for another reason. And these are the ways that avoidants avoid having a real conversation about their feelings for you. And this may also manifest as a sense of protectiveness towards you. They may check up on you frequently to just make sure you're okay. They may ask about your health, your family, your job. And if you're acting in ways that they deem risky, then they might chastise you or offer to help you. Again, your ex wants to show you love, but doesn't want it to be obvious that that's their intention. It's much safer for them to offer to help you or keep you safe. And at the same time, that concern for you is real. They're afraid to lose you, but they're also afraid to ask you for another chance. So this is a way for them to calm their nerves about losing you without having to take a risk. Now this isn't really something that your ex will usually do consciously. Many people are unable to admit their feelings even to themselves, and that can make them act in ways that seem to really make no sense. It's actually a fascinating psychological phenomenon at play. So now the question is, where do you go from here? How can you get them to admit the truth and win back this avoidant ex? Well, I have actually made a whole video on this topic, which I'll link in the description below, but let's talk about it briefly here. So basically, your goal isn't to get them to admit their feelings for you. That would be nice, but it's not going to help you achieve your goal of avoiding them back. So focus on connecting with your ex in a more chill way. Don't put pressure on them to talk about their feelings. Just make them laugh, spend time together, and rebuild that connection. And then, when the time is right, it's going to be easy to make it official. But don't rush this, or you're definitely going to scare off your avoidant ex. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, for liking, subscribing, and otherwise keeping this channel going. I see it, and I sincerely appreciate it. Good luck with your avoidant ex, and see you next time.